Hi, my name is Ephraim de la Garza. You're looking at a miracle. You're looking at a man that they had said would never amount to nothing. You're looking at a man that said would be a loser. You're looking at a man that even my own parents said there would be no hope for me. And I believed every word, and I went out and set out to prove them right. I didn't have an easy journey in my life. I had a hard journey. And in this journey, I lived it to the fullest. I took everything that I could take from this world. I robbed, I stole, I'd take from anybody that would leave themselves open. I used drugs to the fullest. I did everything that I possibly could to destroy my own life because I had no hope. I was empty, didn't have anybody, and felt like anybody would love me. And why would they want to love me? I didn't even love myself. There was times I would wake up in the middle of the night in despair and empty and hoping and wishing that somebody would just love me. And I always fell back and I always thought of why? Why would anybody want to love me? Don't they know the things that I've done wrong? Don't they know the hate that I carried, the violence that I had within me because I felt so empty? And to mind you that I was born into Christianity now. I gave my life to Christ when I was 8, but I grew up in a neighborhood where there was to show some kind of love or affection was a sign of weakness. And so because I knew that I didn't fit in, because I knew there was a part of me that was part of God. And there was a part of me that I had to cover up. I didn't want them to see that part of me, so I had to work double hard to cover the true man that I really was and that I had a heart at that time. And I think that's what evolved into being so hateful and so all that, because I had to work harder to cover that. And it seemed like the more I did wrong, the more, you can't be a thief and have a conscience. And the more I did wrong, the more I began to feel guilty because I knew there was a part of me that I had an experience with God that I ran from for years and years and years and years. I ran from that. And I remember one night I woke up and I started looking at my life and looking at all the stuff that I was going through, the robberies I committed, the beats that I gave people. And I actually began to feel guilty for those things. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, you can't feel guilty for those things. You grew up in a neighborhood that you just don't have that kind of feelings no more. But they began to rise up because I knew there was still a part of me that was part of God. And so I began to push harder to create my own story, to raise up myself as a man that would have power, that would have, that would be looked up to. I didn't want people to see the true me. And it just seemed like I had to work harder to run from that type of feeling or run from who I really was. But one night, I can't even explain, but there was something happened. There was an encounter that I had with God. And as I stood there looking around at all that I had and the money I had and everything that I had, and I began to look and I said, you know what? There's one thing missing. You have cars, you have money, you have fame, you have notoriety, you have all those things, but there's one thing that was missing. They had no love. Nobody to love and nobody to love me. At that point in time, I began to just feel in my heart, pulling from God. And the more God pulled, the more I wanted to just get away from it. I didn't want to have that acknowledgement with God. But I didn't have a choice. It seemed like I didn't have a choice because God had already predestined me from the beginning of time. He had already chosen me, selected me. He knew what I would go through and how I would suffer for his name's sake. And that night, I said to God the very words, I said, God, if you're real, and if you really love me like you say you do, then help me. Help me to change. Help me to want to do things your way. Help me to experience love in that emptiness, in that place of my heart. It just feels so dry, so empty. And so I began to understand that he loved me before I loved myself. He loved me when I was at my worst. It was his love that drew me to him. It was his love that brought me to my knees. It was his love. Because I never knew what love was until I began to see and understand who Jesus was. And the more I began to spend time and chewing on who he was and what his love was for me, I began to feel this heart that was so hard and like a stone began to soften up. And of course, you can't have that type of heart around the environment I grew in. But at that point, I didn't care no more. I didn't care to live the way I was living anymore. I said, look, man, if this is what it's all about, you all can have it. Here, take this, take that. Because all I want to be is fit in somewhere where I'm loved. Somewhere where somebody will love me and teach me and show me how to become a true man. Because I knew these things were not what a man was really about. Hurting people is not what a man's about. Cheating, stealing is not what a man's about. And so the more I began to spend time with God, I remember I would just take little steps. I'd pray 5 minutes here, I'd read my Bible 3 minutes here. But the more I spent time with God, the more this love affair began to grow. And I began to get drawn to God more and more and more and more. And I got to a place where I was just consumed in God so much that I couldn't, this man that could not cry no more began to cry and weep. Weep, why? It was weep because I was full of joy, because somebody loved me now. The people that said I would never amount to nothing, those that said that I would fail, nothing good would come out of LCM, they said. Nothing. What good could come out of that? I said, you're looking at a man today that something good did come out. I'm here to testify about his goodness and his love. And only through him have I been able to be where I'm at today, not by myself. Because all I knew was just to do the worst I can be, the worst that I can be. The rob, steal, cheat, manipulate, everything that you can think of that the world brings. I was chief of them all. Now I'm in a place where I'm actually wanting to be what he wants me to be, what Jesus called me to be. And if I really found out now that a true man is a godly man, because being a godly man actually takes more effort. It takes more effort to be a warrior for God than it is to be a warrior for the world. Anybody can do that. Any fool, any dummy can do that. Trust me, I was every dummy that you can think of. But I thank God for today. That today, I don't know who I'm talking to, but I will tell you this. I'm a miracle. I'm a miracle of his love. I'm a miracle of his goodness. I'm a miracle that he lives and he reigns. I don't care what you've done, where you've been through. He can bring you out of it all. He did it for me. He'll do it for you. You're never too far away where God's hand can't reach. Look, he reached down to the bottom of the barrel and pulled me out. I realize now that he always loved me. All I had to do was just receive it. It took a long time to finally realize that. And today I receive His love and I walk in His love. And everything that I eat, breathe, is to give Him glory. Because it's no longer my story, it's His story.